Hi, and welcome to the presentation on point biserial correlations. I'm going to cover how to conduct this type of test in SPSS, how to create a bar graph, how to modify it to be an APA format, and how to present the results using current APA style conventions. So here's my example data set. We are going to be conducting a point biserial correlation, which means we need one nominal dichotomous variable. So dichotomous means two levels. So our nominal dichotomous variable is going to be whether or not someone drinks soda. So that was a yes or no. It's the second column shown in this table. So there's ones and twos, and ones means someone who does drink soda, and two is someone who does not drink soda. So that's the nominal dichotomous variable. And then you also need a scale variable for the point biserial. So we are going to do someone's age. So that's the very first column. So we're using the first two columns in this data set. I've used this data set for several of the different kinds of correlations. So if you have your SPSS file, go ahead and open it up. If not, go ahead and pause this slide and create your SPSS file, and then you can check it with mine on the next slide that just shows you what your SPSS data file should look like. So this is the top image is the variable view of SPSS, and then the middle image says data view. So the data view is where you copy and paste your numerical numbers or type them in, and then you switch to variable view to name your variables and set your scale of measurement. So again, we will be using age and soda. So age is our scale variable and soda is our nominal dichotomous variable. We want to see if there's a relationship between whether or not someone drinks soda and their age. Okay, once you have your SPSS data file set up for those two columns with the two variables, you're going to run the point biserial correlation. To do that, you go to Analyze, Correlate, and Bivariate. So you're actually running the Pearson's R, but it gives you numerically the exact same information as you need for a point biserial. So you just have to recognize and correctly report that you're actually conducting a point biserial correlation. So once you move your two variables over into the variable box, then you make sure the correlation coefficient has Pearson's selected, and it should always be two-tailed for the nominal dichotomous correlations. Once you click those, you're going to click OK. This is what the output will look like that SPSS creates for you. So you will have this table that shows the Pearson correlation between whether or not someone drinks soda and someone's age. So again, it's actually a point biserial correlation. It's just going to label it as Pearson's R. And what you want to look at is the correlation coefficient is 0.607. Remember, correlations range from -1 to +1, but whether it's actually a meaningful or statistically significant correlation, you're going to look at the sig column. Ours is 0.063. Since that's not below the alpha value of 0.05, we would conclude there is no relationship. So it is not statistically significant. Now, how do you write that up within a sentence? Like if you're going to report it in a paper or in a homework assignment, the statistical notation in text would be as shown in the little blue box below. There's two different ways. You can either report it with using the degrees of freedom, which is your sample size -2, or you can just report the total sample size. Remember, all statistical symbols are typically italicized, so they are as shown here. The top one says the RPB just lets people know it's a point biserial correlation is 0.603. N equals 10, and then the P is 0.063. So that's one way, or you can do it the other way where you have your degrees of freedom in parentheses. But don't forget to put that within a sentence. It usually goes near the end of the sentence before the punctuation. Now, typically correlations, you do a scatter plot, but with a point biserial, it's not really appropriate because you only have two levels of one variable. So we're going to create a bar chart. Now, how to do this in SPSS, you're just going to go to Graphs and Bar, make sure Simple is chosen, and then you're going to have a screen like this first one pull up. We are going to go ahead and put your scale variable into the very top one where it says variable. So you see where it says mean and age. So you want to click the other statistic and change it so that it reflects mean. And then for the category axis, you're going to put your nominal dichotomous variable. In our particular example, it's whether or not someone drinks soda. So once you have those two set up exactly as shown here, then you can click OK. Now, what type of graph would be most appropriate? Although we typically do scatter plots for correlations, for a point biserial, that wouldn't really be appropriate or helpful because one of the variables only has 2 levels. So a bar chart would be more appropriate for a point biserial correlation. So to do this, you're going to go to Graphs and Bar, make sure Simple is selected. And the very first thing you're going to need to do is indicate what your variables will be. So in the first column shown here, you're going to move your scale variable to where it says variable. Make sure you click the other statistic and set it to be the mean. And then you're going to select options and make sure it selects to display your error bars. And I typically do the 1 standard deviation. For publications, you might also see 1 standard error instead. So this really can just depend on what publication you're submitting to or what your professor wants. Again, just for my purposes here, I'm going to use 1 standard deviation. So I click standard deviation and I do change it to 1.0. Then you click continue and that options dialog box will go away. And then you want to make sure your category axis, you have your nominal dichotomous variable, which in our particular example is whether or not someone drinks soda. Now, once you have all of this set up correctly, you can click OK and it will create a bar chart for you. So this is the bar chart that SPSS will produce, and although we've set it to be an APA style, it is not in full APA style. So some changes we're going to need to make will be to hide those horizontal lines, to delete where it says the error bars at the bottom, and if your axis titles are not in title case or if they're bold, you're going to have to change those as well. So we have some modifications we're going to need to do. This is professional results for Pearson's R correlation, showing you what that graph should look like in APA style. So what you would do on that graph is you double click on it, it opens up the chart editor, and you can do that to remove those error bars, to remove where it says the grid lines, and then you're going to X out of that chart editor, and then you can copy and paste it into a Word document. So I just copy and paste the image itself into a Word document, and then I type in the figure number, which is bolded, the title underneath it, which is double spaced and in title case and italicized, but not bold. So pay attention, like this is just APA style. So underneath it, I just have that soda consumption is not related to one's age, in title case, italicized. And then below the figure itself is a note. The word note is italicized, and then you have any information that you want to share about the figure in the note. For this instance, I just put the sample size and the p-value. You might sometimes have what the error bars are. That usually is a very common practice. You can say error bars represent 1 standard deviation, or just whatever information you want to share with the reader about it. Now on the other panel, we have the professional write-up following professional conventions. So we have the statistical notation within the sentence. So it says a point biserial correlation failed to find a relationship between age and whether or not a person consumes soda. RPB8 equals 0.607, P equals 0.063, two-tailed. As shown in figure 1, there is no relationship. So the as shown in figure 1 is considered a call out, and so that is also modeled for you in this presentation in APA style. And there you have it. That's how to conduct a point biserial correlation in SPSS and then how to present it using professional conventions. Thanks for watching.